In November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to the murders of his pregnant wife, Shanann Watts, and their two daughters, Bella and Celeste. Because he pled guilty, the case never went to trial. That meant something important. The public never heard a full explanation of what happened inside that house. There was no reconstruction, no cross-examination, no tested narrative, no prosecution theory of how it happened. For months, the only detailed version of events came later, during a prison interview. Hey guys, so I wanted to give you a heads up on something I've been working on. This is going to be a deeper series, but before I get there, I want to lay the groundwork because the most interesting question to me isn't actually what Chris Watts said happened. It's why almost everyone accepted it. Almost everybody, instantly, including me at first. If you've been following me, you know I'm not really a breaking news reaction channel. I'm more interested in how narratives form, what people believe, and why they believe it. And this case is almost a perfect example of that. When the case originally happened, I honestly wasn't following it. My husband had passed away a few months earlier after a long illness. And so I had a lot going on in my life, working, trying to put my life together. So I came to this case later. And when I finally did, I was horrified, like everyone else. But also, I came in during a very specific phase, the speculation phase. We knew he did it, but we didn't know how. There was no trial explanation, just fragments, interrogation clips, body cam, and a confession that kept changing. So the public filled the gaps. In the interrogation, when investigators suggested Shanann might have hurt the girls, Chris immediately latched onto it. That matters, because from the very beginning, we watched him adopt a narrative in real time that wasn't his own. And he added on to it and, things like that. For nearly a year, people debated everything. Who died first, whether he acted alone, what happened inside the house, and everything else. The case lived online. It was a huge online topic of conversation. Around that time, there were also extremely popular online interpretations circulating. One of the biggest involved the shadow footage analysis that many people followed closely in 2018. Whether people agreed with it or not isn't really the point. The point is, those discussions were everywhere. And they shaped what people were looking for when they later heard Chris describe the events himself. So when he finally spoke in prison, the audience wasn't hearing the story in a vacuum. They were hearing it after months of theories, images, and expectations. And Chris himself wasn't living in a vacuum either. In that prison interview, it is clear he was aware of what people were saying on the outside, from his attorney, from his family, and from the thousands of letters he received from around the world. He knew what the outside world believed about him. He knew the narratives that were forming about him as well. Then came the detailed confession in prison, the story of what happened at the oil site. And after the initial shock of this confession, something interesting happened. People settled. The debate largely stopped. Suddenly, it wasn't how did he do it, who did it, whatever. It settled. This is what happened because it came out of his mouth. And he said this is what happened. And that's the part I keep coming back to. Why did everyone accept that version as a final truth? Think about it. Why would someone invent a worse story about themselves? Why confess to something more horrifying than necessary? That alone makes people trusted. There's also closure. Families in real cases often say Not knowing is worse than knowing, even if the truth is terrible. So when a story appears, the mind wants to land somewhere. And once it lands, it stops questioning. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized this wasn't just about what Chris said. It was about how humans decide something is settled. That's what this series is going to be about. This series is not going to be about the truth necessarily of what Chris said, because honestly, we will never know exactly what happened that day, that night. We will never get the absolute truth from of what happened that day, because the only people that know the truth of what happened is Chris Watts, who is known to lie really quickly, and the other people, Celeste and Bella and Shanann, who are no longer with us. So the series is not going to explore whether he really lied. It's why we believe that and why we got so settled on that right away. So for now, I'd like to hear what you guys think. When you first heard the prison confession, did it feel like answers or just the first explanation that let the case end? Tell me in the comments, please. And if you want to follow the deeper breakdown, subscribe, because the next video is where we start pulling this apart, piece by piece. Not to rewrite the case, but to understand why we believed it. So please join me in the next video of this subject. I should have the video out next weekend. So until next time, bye-bye.